Welcome back to another episode of College Cash Corner, the podcast where we dive into all things related to managing your finances during your college years and beyond. I am Tara, your host today, and today I'm speaking with Matt Long from Take Charge America about saving money. Matt, how are you today?
Very good, thank you.
Good. So, could you start by telling our audience a little bit about yourself and your role at Take Charge America and what led you to getting involved with financial literacy?
Sure. So I am the community outreach educator, and prior to doing this for Take Charge America, I was a high school guidance counselor and in education for 32 years. Retired from that, um, having an interest in business and money and finance. Um, my college roommate actually let me know about this job that they were looking for somebody, so I went and applied, and it kind of fit right with everything I do. I did a lot of presentations to parents and things about college and that type of stuff, and so that part of it was easy for me. And then just learning the financial side and getting a little more knowledge about things was the easiest thing to do. So I'm celebrating today my 7th year anniversary of Take Charge America.
Oh,
Yes, thank you,
congratulations.
thank you.
Nice. Can you explain the importance of saving money, especially for college students who may have limited income?
Well, I always ask students this question: how many of you want to get out of your parents' house? And I'm going to make the assumption that a lot of the students who are coming to Mesa Community College are living at home. And, at some point, one or two things is going to happen. Either they're going to get sick of their parents' rules and want to get out, or their parents are going to be tired of them being in the house and want them to get out. And so savings as through high school and into college um, gives you a chunk of money to be able to get out on your own and move forward with your life. And depending on what their plans are after Mesa Community College, if they're going to go to a university or transfer to ASU and still live at home, that's fine. There's no issue with that. But at some point, they're going to want to get out on their own, and so that first chunk of money or that first chunk of savings really needs to be a probably $5,000 or $6,000, what I call get out money, so that they can get out on their own and kind of start their lives as adults.
Okay. And what about there is a community of students who have families who are out on their own. Maybe they're attending MCC because they want to re-career, or they're earning uh, degrees or certificates to increase their salary, right, with their current job.
Sure.
So, what about for those students who are already out on their own? What's the importance of saving money?
Well, there's kind of two focuses when you're talking about that. One would be, what are their goals? Are they in an apartment, want to get into a house? Do they want to move out of state once they graduate? Do they want to start a family? Those types of things. And then in today's world, most people have to create their own retirement plan. And the reality is Social Security, I think it'll be around, but it certainly is not significant. It's probably 30 to 40% of needed money in retirement. So creating your own and time is the biggest factor for that. So the sooner you can start putting some money away, whether it's in a Roth IRA or a 401k through your company, the longer it has to grow through compounding interest. So, um, that alone, and again, if it's a family and they've got children, okay, you want those children to go to college,
Mhm.
a 529, which now the new rule is with a 529, you can roll it into a Roth IRA up to $35,000 if your child doesn't go to college or use that money. They can roll it into their children's 401k
Mhm.
or Roth IRA as long as they have income. So there's a lot of new rules in retirement and things like that. And I will say this about people who are creating their own retirement plan if they don't have a 401k. The new rules with a Roth IRA, it's not really a new, it's just a rule that a lot of people don't understand, is that they always think if I put money in there, it's tied up till I'm 59 and a half. And that's not the case. Um, in a Roth IRA, you can remove what you've put in, your contribution at any point. So if you put $10,000 in over the last 10 years and it's the 4 or Roth IRA is worth 15,000, you can withdraw that $10,000. You just can't touch the proceeds or the profits, so to speak, or the compounding interest until you're 59 and a half. So, people feel like, okay, what if I need that money, before that? And this is a way to plan for retirement, invest for retirement, and still have that money liquid so that you can get to it prior to 59 and a half if you need it for some reason.
There are people who use that as their emergency fund. Is it a better practice to save up an emergency fund that you can easily get to it so that you don't have to touch that Roth IRA if you have it? Or is it okay to just use that Roth IRA contributions as the emergency fund?
I think I think it's better to have an emergency fund, or rainy day fund, or a contingency fund, whatever you want to call it, but having a separate amount of money set aside to take care of those unexpected things. I'll just give you an example. 3 weeks ago, my check engine light came on. I'm like,
Mm.
oh no, here we go. And I took it in at $660 to fix it. I don't have that in my monthly budget, but I do have a fund specifically set aside, what I call my rainy day fund, and it's about $2,500 to take care of those unexpected events that do happen. You
Hmm.
know, hopefully they're not $660 worth, but maybe a new tire or a new battery or something like that. Those aren't cheap, but they're not in your monthly budget. So having two separate allows you to continue to let that money grow for retirement, but also have some money to take care of those life happens events, I guess.
Thinking about savings, I hear a lot that I can't save, right?
Hmm.
My bills are too high. I have too many things that I need to do that cost money, and I just can't save. So I'd like to first talk about the emotion or the psychology behind
Hmm.
that thinking process and how positive or negative thinking about saving can impact rational decision making with money.
There's usually kind of four areas that we fall into, and one is the person who can't get enough, and they just keep getting more and more money. Then there's people who feel like they don't deserve to have money, so they spend it. There's other people who can't can't worry about it. It's too stressful. I just can't be worried about that. I'm making it. I'm doing okay. I'll worry about that at another time. We have to take a good look at what is our emotions with money. What is our relationship with money? Because whether we like it or not, as we become adults, we're going to deal with money every day. I look at
Mhm.
my checking accounts and my credit card bills every morning just to make sure that nothing's happened that I wasn't expecting. I got enough money to pay the bills. Nobody stole my identity, those types of things. And it brings me comfort. So as we look at our relationship with money, we can kind of look back at our history. Was there an event that happened in our lives that influenced how we look at money or what our relationship is with money? And the reality of it is the more aware we are of how we're spending our money,
Mhm.
gives us a better opportunity to control our money. And so, you hear things like give every dollar a job, or using envelopes, or using, Mint, an app online, or paper and pencil, Excel. The key is when you're putting together a budget, that's fine. But what you really need to look at when people say, well, I don't have money to save, I always ask them, okay, well, look at your food expenditure,
Mhm.
and not your groceries, but your eating out. Do you have what we call a spending leak? Are you buying coffee next door over here at the little coffee shop every day for $4 or $5? Are you eating out every day? And when you begin to look at those things and add that up, you begin to see that, wow. I'll give you an example. My oldest daughter, Samantha, who lives in Delaware now, but she was in New Jersey at the time, called me and said, Dad, I'm making pretty good money, but I never had money to save. Can you look at my account and tell me? And I said, sure. I didn't like looking at her account, but um, I could still see it because it was a minor account. She didn't take me off. And so I went in and I saw it right away. It was clear as day to me. She was going to Dunkin' Donuts every morning, getting an iced coffee and a bagel and spending between $5 and $6 a day, 7 days a week. I
Mm.
called her back and I said, you got a spending leak. She said, what are you talking about, Dad? Because I'm usually Dad the moron, not her personal financial advisor. And
Right.
I said, well, you go to Dunkin' Donuts every day. I said, you're spending $140 a month, about $1,600 a year. I said, you've got everything in your apartment and you can buy the Dunkin' Donuts K-Cups and you can buy ice and you can buy bagels and you've got a toaster and you got a Keegan coffee maker, whatever those things are. And you could do that for about 75 cents. And she made that change and was able to
Mhm.
save $100 a month. She was also eating out 3 or 4 times a day at Wawa, which is similar to QT out here in Phoenix,
Mhm.
and spending about $40 a week doing that, 30, $40 a week. And so we talked about that as well. And I'm not saying it has to be total deprivation,
Right.
but maybe what I suggested for her was, okay, go 6 days without going to Dunkin' Donuts, and then go 6 days without going to Wawa. And on the seventh day, reward yourself, but make it 2 different days. So like Monday you get coffee, Friday you get the sandwich, and save $200 a month doing that by just making that little change. We didn't have to do a complete budget and override and look at all that stuff, but just looking at that and looking at how we're spending our money and our relationship to spending money, figuring out a system that works for you. I don't carry cash. If you use your debit card a lot, then carry cash,
Mhm.
because cash, you can significantly see it going away. The next thing you know, it's gone.
Right.
So it's really looking at and figuring out a system that works for you, but tracking where your money's going is kind of the first step to getting a clear vision of how you're spending your money.
Mhm.
Because we all do mindless spending.
Yeah.
We stop and get a soda, or we're in the grocery store line and we grab a Snickers bar, or we order a sandwich and we decide to grab a bag of chips, but controlling that mindless spending can oftentimes find us a chunk of money that we could use for saving.
Yeah, I like that spending leaks. There are times where my husband and I sit down and go, "Oh, how did we spend that much money?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then we look back at
Yeah.
exactly what we spent that money on. And we're like, "Oh, like the
Yeah.
advertisers or the convenience got to
Yep.
us." Taking control of those leaks and plugging them up
Yeah,
again. Yeah.
absolutely. Or just making a change
Right.
so that it's not leaking as much,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
And eventually you might be able to dam that up
Yeah,
completely,
absolutely.
but at least it's not leaking
Right.
profusely
Right.
for some time. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Many college students have part-time jobs or gig work. In your opinion, how can they maximize their earnings and make the most of their saving opportunities?
Becoming aware of what is our income and what are our expenses. What are our financial obligations?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it'd be a mortgage, it'd be car insurance, it's my cell phone, all those different things. And so when I list all that out, that gives me an idea of what I have to spend to
Mm-hmm.
to exist. What is my nut that costs me every month of expenditures? And then I can put my income and subtract those two, and that gives me my cash flow. Maybe it's $5. Maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
$5 a week. Maybe I like to look at an hourly basis. How many hours a
Mm-hmm.
month could you save? So even if you're working part time and you're making, we'll say $15 an hour because it's easy math for me that way,
Right.
and I save an hour a week.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm saving $60 a month, and so I like to look at it from the standpoint of when I'm working and I'm saving an hour. So my first hour of the day is mine to do whatever I want with that money,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's go play golf, go back and see my granddaughter in Delaware, go up to Michigan in July and get out of the heat, whatever it is. I get to choose where that money goes. Because if you're spending all your money, you're really just working for everybody else,
Right.
and so
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't some of that money be for you? And so figuring out what you can comfortably save, whether it's $5 a month, $10, 20, whatever it is, then that gets me up and rolling.
Mm-hmm.
And then to what I like to call, say, supercharge. So for me, I paid off my car in December,
Mm-hmm.
$245 a month finally, and 5 years of payments.
Oh,
Yes,
congratulations. That's
thank
a
you.
big deal.
Yeah. Well, I got a check engine light shortly after. We're like panicking, like, oh no, my engine's going to blow up. But it didn't. Anyhow, in years past, I would have let that 245 go into the checking account and frittered away. But since I like to practice what I preach, I took 200 and increased my savings every month by $200.
Mm-hmm.
Let the 45 go in for inflation and that type of stuff, but supercharged my savings by $200 starting in January.
Right.
So, we're now in August, so I've put an extra $1,800 into savings because that's money I lived without and figured it out without it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how you begin to start building a savings plan that is significant and gives you some freedom to decide where that money is going, and if I want to
Mm-hmm.
invest some money here, or if I want to, put a down payment on a new car or get a house, all those different things. Um, that savings allows us that freedom to make some fun choices for a change.
Right,
You know,
right. It also gives you the peace of mind. So when that check engine light did come on,
right,
you're like, oh, I put some extra in savings.
right,
Like,
right,
I don't want to spend $600 on this, but I can.
right.
Student loans is a big topic right
Hmm.
now. With financial literacy here at MCC, we often we tell the students that if you need to take loans, because for some of us it's a necessity, right, to hold off on taking loans until you get, if you're transferring to a university, because that's going to be just so much more
Yes,
expensive, right? And then only take what you absolutely need, which comes back to the budgeting
right,
and
right.
knowing what you have in savings, that kind of thing. Eventually students need to start paying on those student loans. How can they manage their loans responsibly while still saving for the future? Like,
Mhm.
it may just seem overwhelming. Like, I was saving, say, $200 a month, but now I've got this student loan
Right,
that's $300 a month,
right,
right?
right.
So any advice or any insight to how to balance that?
Well, first, I'll commend them because they're going to community college, which is the cheapest path to getting a college degree. I'll use my experience way back before most of your listeners were born. And I went to Santa Monica Community College for 3 years. I lived at home. I worked at Safeway. I started bagging groceries, and then I became a checker, and then I was a night stockman, and saved money during that time frame specifically for college, for the transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the beauty of community college, and I'm assuming it's the same. I could go to school on Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday morning class, and work Tuesday, Thursday, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And back in those days, Saturday was or Sunday was time and a half. And so because I was living at home and I didn't have a lot of financial obligations, we didn't have cell phones back then.
Right.
Which I know is I mean, I understand it's a need. I was able to save money, and then I did have to take student loans, but I was able to supplement a little bit at it. I mean, I think the key is taking the smallest amount as possible. I mean, there's a couple things you can do with student loans. One is you can apply for income-based payments, which can reduce your payment. If you have a month where things happen, and you don't have $250 to pay, and your income-based payment's only $50, and you can pay the $50 and use the extra money for whatever it is. You just can't do that every month.
Right.
So they've made a lot of changes, because back when I mean, it was 10 years, period.
Mm-hmm.
You paid, and there was no income, none of that stuff. But they realize that people have financial obligations, and that cost of living is much higher. So, and the income hasn't necessarily matched that. Obviously, first course is to try to take as little as possible, only take what you need. And then second course is and really look at the long run, the big picture, because student loans are through the federal government. Federal government wants their money.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get it. I've worked with people who are getting their Social Security garnished, 250 for one, 350 for another, because they have
Mm.
delinquent student loans. Um, I've worked with people through VITA, Voluntary Income Tax Assistance, a great program if you want somebody to do your taxes for free. And one of the questions we asked them, what are you going to do with your return? And they were getting like $3,000-$4,000 returns. And they said, well, I don't see any of that. I have delinquent student
Mm.
loans, and the federal government takes my tax returns. You can't ignore it. You do have to deal with it, but there are some things that you can do to ease that burden early in your working career, your professional career, so to speak,
Right.
right out of college, and then you can begin to ramp that up.
For beginners out there, people who are listening, and thinking, okay, well, I mean, I think I can make some changes and save a little bit of money. Where's a good place to put that money
Sure.
to save it?
I mean, a bank or a credit union,
Mm-hmm.
that's The banks are FDIC insured. The credit unions are NIC something insured. And what that means is that your money is protected by the federal government up to $250,000. We had those banks that went under
Mm-hmm.
not too long ago. And of course, everybody freaks out about that stuff. But in reality, if they had the people who members of those banks, if they had less than $250,000, all their money got put back and
Okay.
given back. So they didn't lose their money.
Right.
The bank went under, so they lost their banking institution, but they didn't lose their money. One of the key pieces is to make sure you're not paying a fee. Okay, so places like Desert Financial Credit Union, it's $25 minimum balance. You keep that. Your checking and savings is free. I think Bank of America, you have to have a direct deposit of some sort. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you can look at the different rules. The other piece is that I would separate some savings accounts.
Okay.
Now I'm a little on the freak side of things, so um, not only do I separate my savings accounts, but I have my rainy day contingency, whatever my fund money is all in a completely different bank. So
Okay.
it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have savings in my regular bank where I do all my bill paying, but the additional money goes into a completely different bank. And so I know there's a way I can transfer money from that one bank to another, but I haven't learned how to do that. And the bank is not close to my house. It's not on my way to work. It's kind of out of the way. So I really have to go out of my way to go get some of that money. Try to make it as hard and as painful as possible.
Yeah.
Fees for savings and checking could be $15 a month. They may only be saving $20 a month. So I
Right.
mean, they're only netting $5. So the second thing is that's one of the purposes of banks
Mm-hmm.
and credit unions is to give you a place to safely save your money and be able to accumulate money that you can use for whatever you need, and also have the ability to use your cell phone to pay all your bills and things like that, and you can do automatic payments. I mean, and so it's another tool to help you manage your money.
Is there anything else that you would say to it if a student said, "Well, I don't know that I trust the banks to
Sure,
hold my money"?
sure. I guess what I would say is I'd go into local credit union and go in and talk to them and ask your questions and your concerns,
Mm-hmm.
because your money in a bank or a credit union is liquid.
Mm-hmm.
You can go in and withdraw it all at any point in time. But certainly when the bank's open, you can go in and completely close your account, take it all out, and if you're not comfortable with it, and kind of see, just try it out.
Yeah.
You're going to get it back.
College students too are often faced with social pressures to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have about being faced with that? You want to save, but you've got these social pressures saying you need to spend.
Saving money is hard. You can budget your social money,
Mm-hmm.
and you can still, if you have friends that are going out to dinner, let's say, going out to dinner and maybe imbibe in something afterwards, you can go out, you can eat before you go. You can
Mm-hmm.
still go and sit with them and have all the good time. You just don't order any food. And then that allows you to maybe have some money to do whatever you're doing afterwards. If people give you a hard time, I just say, I don't have the money to do that. I
Right.
can't afford it. Or I have goals. This is not part of my plan. And if they can't respect that, then, I don't know. Finding friends maybe or getting friends on board, because chances are they're dealing with the same issues you are.
Probably. They
Yeah.
might be like, "Oh, I'm so relieved.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
we don't have to do this.
Right.
I'm with
Right.
you."
Yeah. Let's have dinner at each other's houses, and
Right.
then maybe go out after that. I mean, there's a lot of ways around manipulating social things.
Right.
You know, um, I know my youngest daughter, who's up in Michigan, she goes to trivia night on Tuesdays,
Mm-hmm.
with her friends, and she may get a soda pop or whatever, but it's not a dinner and three or four soda pops, and next thing you know, it's a $75 night. Um, they're there to play trivia, and they get the socialization out of it, and you know, they buy whatever they want or whatever they feel like they can afford, and there's no pressure with that. The pressure is answering the trivia questions.
Right. Right.
So figuring out things that you can do socially that aren't expensive.
I understand though that our society a lot is based around food. Like
Yes.
food brings people together
Yes,
too.
absolutely.
So, but there are, like you said, there are ways to make that a little bit cheaper, like doing the potluck
Right.
and that kind of
Or
thing.
even taking a picnic to the park.
Well, and oftentimes too, with speaking about like going out for dinners versus not, if you have a larger group of people, you got to figure out what everybody likes, and you
Right.
have to find a place that matches that,
Right.
right? So maybe a movement needs to start with like BYOM, bring your own meal,
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, is it possible to save too much money where it becomes a financial burden?
I think you if money is driving your life and dictating what you're doing, you're missing the roses, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a piece of your life, but it shouldn't be the main drive in your life. You've got to find something that you're passionate about, and accumulating money is not. It's a material thing, and it's
Mm-hmm.
what are you going to do with it when you pass? I mean, I don't think you can have too much savings,
Mm-hmm.
but if it's dictating your life and how you live, where you go to work, go home, go to work, go home, and you never spend any money on anything. I don't know. I guess you have to take a look in the mirror and say, how happy am I?
Yeah, I know that I went through that phase of like I need to get money, I need to save money, 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 money. Right. That
Hmm.
was the
Sure.
focus. But then once I hit those goals, it's like, well now what do I do
Right.
with it? Like, well, what was the purpose of saving that? Like I didn't have a goal behind saving the
Right.
certain amount of money.
Right. Right.
So, and then I realized money is the tool to get me what I want.
Correct.
So, are there any resources, books, apps, anything out there that you find very helpful or would recommend to college students that want to enhance their financial literacy or money management skills or saving skills?
Sure. Sure.
Oh.
There's a lot of free resources out there. Uh, there are free resources on takechargeamerica.org, our website. We have things that'll help you with budgeting and talk to you about credit. And we have a money maximizer magazine it's all emailed to you and has lots of articles. I personally read Kiplinger magazine. It used to be Money Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
I read it because they talk about things that I'm talking about, and I want to make sure I'm giving the latest and greatest information. So I was actually reading it a little bit this morning, and it's talking. I mean, it does have a lot of stuff on retirement,
Mm-hmm.
but that's got to be a piece of your good rounded financial plan because um, I'll just give you a quick example. If you could put $50 a month away for 45 years, your total investment would be $27,000. Because of compounding interest in a conservative 7% return, 6% return, something like that, it would grow to $1.1 million in that
Mm-hmm.
45 years. And your investment is 27,000. So time is a huge factor in accumulating wealth,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to teach my daughters how to be better financially than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the generational wealth.
Yeah.
It's not leaving $1 million, it's leaving them with the skills to get $1 million if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying $1 million is the end all be all. I mean, I
Right.
don't have $1 million and I feel like I've done fairly successful financially.
Yeah.
And so it really depends on your basis of thought process. There are books out there. The Millionaire Next Door
Yeah.
is a great book because it talks about how the majority of people in our country become millionaires,
Right.
and there's an old adage: how to eat an elephant, one
Mm-hmm.
bite at a time. How to become a millionaire, 1 month at a time. And
Right.
it's that consistency of being able to put 50 or $100 away every month, and being able to do that for a long period of time. You generate income.
Right.
By the way, if you did $100 a month for 45 years, $54,000 investment, 3.3 million. So,
Wow.
um,
Puts it in perspective,
yeah, just throw it
right?
out there.
Yeah.
And
Thank
again, I don't know what
you.
$1 million would buy in 45 years, but I know I'd
Right.
much rather have it than not.
Right. Then we like to ask maybe some more personal questions
Sure.
about money. Is there anything that you wish you had understood about money in your younger years, say in your college years, or you had to go out there on your own?
Wow. Where do I begin? One, I wish I would have known putting money away, just a small amount when I was younger would have grown into a big amount. And two, I got married in Catholic church. I wasn't raised Catholic, but we had to go to pre-Canaan classes.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about our relationship and we talked about children and where we wanted to live and all those things, but we never talked about how we're going to handle our money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's inevitable because opposites attract. There's going to be a spender and a saver in a relationship. I'm guessing with you and your husband, there's a spender and a saver,
Mm-hmm.
and you know who you are,
Right.
right? And so I married a spender, and so that was probably the number one stressful thing in our marriage, was money, because of course, being the saver, I did all the finances and things like that, and so she didn't see how tight things were when she went out and bought, back to school clothing for the girls and things like that. And it wasn't that you couldn't do that, but we have to put a limit on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so had we talked about that, how we were going to handle our money prior to getting married, that would have been a piece of our marriage that wouldn't have been as much of a
What is the financial decision that you are proud of?
probably getting my daughters to invest young.
What do you enjoy spending your money on?
A round of golf and traveling back to see my daughters.
Wow.
As I said, one's in Michigan. I went,
Right.
and I know they don't have the finances to fly here.
Mm-hmm.
And for me to fly there is a lot cheaper. I guess my youngest daughter, I could fly her. I mean, it's the same cost because it's only one person. But
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to fly my daughter and my granddaughter, I probably should fly my son-in-law as well. So now you're looking at 2 tickets, and eventually it's going to be 3 when she gets old enough. But
Right.
so having the ability to do that
Yeah.
is really kind of my driving force, and be able to retire or semi-retire, retire comfortably.
All right. Well, and I like that you brought up that you had this goal for retirement, and then 2020 and the pandemic hit, and so that you had to rearrange and redo some things, right? Saving is not a linear path. It's
Right.
never a straight path,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
So, and I want our listeners to understand that it's messy.
Mhm.
It's not in a straight line ever, because you can have that straight line planned,
Right.
right? And then things happen and
Sure.
it zigzags you out in and out from this line. But that's normal and it happens. But because you had this straight line path, so
I'm a big proponent of goals. Financial goals give you a focus, give you a purpose, give you a reason to save.
mm-hmm.
My oldest daughter, probably 4 or 5 years ago, called me up and said, "Dad, I want to start saving money for a house." I said, "Okay." I said, "Cut out pictures of houses. It'll give you a vision every day. You put one on your mirror, put one on your door on the way out, put one in your car, which will stop you from going to Dunkin' Donuts and buying
Right.
a $5 coffee, because that's where your focus is. Life happens. There's going to be setbacks,
Mm-hmm.
but it just because there's a setback doesn't mean you have to trash it. If you've got some focus, it gives you some purpose to saving.
Yeah.
And if we don't have any purpose, then for saving, then why save?
Matt, we really appreciate you coming and talking with us, being part of our financial literacy that we're putting out there for the students.
Sure.
It's been
Happy
really
to
great.
do it. Commend all of you. Even listening to this means you're doing something in the world of finances and doing something to improve your own life. Thank you so much for having me, and stay safe out there.
And to our listeners, remember that your journey through college is not just about getting an education, but also about setting the stage for your financial future. Before we go, we want to emphasize that the financial literacy team is here to provide support and guidance to the MCC students on their journey to improving and maintaining their financial knowledge. You can find us on MCC's financial aid website by clicking on the financial literacy section on the left side. There, you can schedule a one-on-one appointment with us, access a free cash course account, and stay informed about upcoming workshops and events, and explore additional financial resources that are available to you. Stay tuned for more tips and insights right here on College Cash Corner.